Okay, Chair, I can confirm that the meeting's now live on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to East Devon District Council's virtual Arts and Culture Forum meeting on today, 24th of February 2021. I'm your chair, Joe Wibley, and I would like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via the live streaming. All participants here today are taking part remotely, and as well as being live streamed, the meeting is being recorded. So please bear this in mind throughout, and may I remind you to be careful with your language. May I also remind members that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting, and we reserve the right to remove anybody and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. If you could turn off any telephones or put them onto silent, that would be greatly appreciated. As this meeting is dependent on the internet connection and power supply, in the event of a break in that, or a power cut, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. If after 15 minutes we're not able to reconnect, we'll consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. Please check the committee page on our website if that happens. Can we make sure that all microphones are muted when you are not speaking to avoid any background noise levels? Keep points short and do not repeat points that have already been made, and try not to interrupt. If you wish to comment, please raise your electronic blue or yellow or whatever colour hand it is at the moment. You will all have been sent or can view the agenda for today's meeting, which is on www.eastdevon.gov.uk. We'll now start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members here present. Could you unmute your microphone, and when you hear your name, confirm that you're present. And when you've done so, can you mute your microphone again? Thank you.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Wibley.
Present.
Councillor Ollie Davey.
Present.
Councillor Bruce de Sarem.
Present.
Councillor Sarah Jackson.
Present, but I'm not entirely sure I should still be on this committee, but let's let me know if that's
okay. I've got Councillor Jeff Young.
Present.
Andrew Moulding.
Present.
I've got Brian Norris. I have just seen a chat message come up. I think he's having technical problems. Same with Sally Twiss. I got Carrie Ann Briggs.
Alethea, just on that, Brian, he's going to dial back in. It's Charlie.
Okay.
So there's obviously a few issues.
Yeah, I'm having quite a lot of emails pinging through. So once I've done the roll call, I'll just double check on those. So I've got Carrie Ann Briggs. Colin Buchan.
Yeah.
Phil Carrigan. Louise Cole. Penny Lewis. And Ellie Pang. Okay, Chair, that's the end of the roll call.
Still on mute, Joe.
Thank you very much. It didn't take long for that to happen, did it? It's usually an hour or so before I make that mistake. Okay, so do we have any apologies other than the temporary technical ones we've just had there?
I've had apologies from John Golding.
Right, okay, that's cool. Thank you. So now we will look at declarations of interest. And yeah, so if you'd like to raise your hand if you have any declarations of interest. Okay, nobody has raised their hand. It has occurred to me we haven't noted the minutes of the previous meeting. So does anybody have any comment on the set of meetings from the set of minutes from the 3rd of December 2020? If you do, please can you raise your blue hand? And if I have no hands raised, I'll take this as an indication that you agree the minutes of the previous meeting. Okay, and again, no
Yeah.
hands. Oh,
Chair, just sorry, Charlie again. On
Charlie.
declarations of interest, I just noticed there were a few physical hands being raised. I saw Councillor Moulding waving his hand as opposed to, I think, putting the blue hand up on the screen. So just
okay, I
make
can't
sure.
see those. So,
Okay.
okay, so could you raise your electronic blue hand if you have a declaration of interest to make? And Councillor Moulding, if you'd like to state yours.
Sorry, Chair, you did tell us to wave our hand, so
Sorry.
I waved it rather than pressing it.
I shall be
I have
specific.
declarations of interest as President of Cloakham Lawn Sports Centre, President of Axminster Musical Theatre, and Trustee of Axminster Heritage Limited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Moulding. Councillor Davey.
Yes, I'm also an Exmouth Town Councillor.
Okay, thank you. I have a declaration of interest in that I am also an Exmouth Town Councillor. And yeah, do we have anybody else? Councillor Brewster Sarum.
The same, likewise, Chair, Exmouth Town Councillor.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Okay. Right. So yeah, I'd just like to introduce myself a little more. I'm Councillor Joe Wibley, and since mid-2019, I've been privileged to have chaired this forum. I'm passionate about the arts and culture development in East Devon. It has fantastic potential for offering magical experiences to residents and visitors. I guess I've tried to be an earpiece and a mouthpiece for officers, and I really, really appreciate and can see how committed they are, but more of that later. As a keen, nearly semi-professional musician, I've seen firsthand the passion and the thirst the district residents have for the arts, even my offerings. And I think coupled with the easing of the pandemic restrictions, hopefully we'll find ourselves in a really, really positive, unique position where people will be aching to engage in the arts, cultural offerings, music, once they feel safely able to do so. So it's up to us to rise to that challenge of meeting that desire. And as we're going to hear later, I think the positive changes and developments that are proposed for both this forum and East Devon's arts offerings as a whole are really, really exciting and perfectly timed. Okay, so we now move to agenda item 5, the Air Fund with Andy Wood. Andy is here, is he?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I can see you, Andy. Hi there. So Andy, I believe, I am reading here, you're going to outline the proposals for this new fund, which could have a potentially positive impact for the cultural sector, which most people agree has been one of the hardest hit and understandably least supported areas since restrictions have been put in place. The opportunity to find out how individual cultural organisations and providers could benefit from applying to the fund is also what I hope you are going to be able to help us with. Okay, Andy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So on the agenda is a copy of a report that went to our Cabinet earlier this month, including a draft of a prospectus, which I'll come back to. But if it's okay with you, Chair, I wanted just to show a couple of slides that came from a Team Devon meeting on Monday that just help, I think, to set the kind of reality of the circumstances that everyone's facing currently. So I shall just attempt to share my screen. Bear with me. Can everyone see that? No? Oh.
No, not currently.
Persevering, Andy.
Okay, just bear with me. I'll come back to
you. You can overcome technology. We must overcome technology.
We will overcome.
It's humanity, for humanity's sake, we must.
Sorry, I'm just going to admit.
There we go.
You're in.
Well done. We got there.
You're on mute. Now, Andy, overcome technology.
How about that? Sorry, Chair. Not quite
Brilliant.
sure what happened there. So I'm just going to show a couple of slides, if that's okay, after a slightly full start. Just to highlight the impact and set the circumstances. So I think just picking up on your point around kind of impact and level of support. So just going to show this one here, which is the proportion of employment furloughed in the UK broken down by sector. And as you can see, this runs from May 2020 through to, I think, January this year. And quite helpful color coding. And you can see, for example, manufacturing, initial quite significant impact up to around 30%, and it's dropped right off since then. But what really stands out and highlighted in bold are the accommodation and food sector, so above 80% back in May. And also the arts, entertainment and recreation sectors as well. And those remain high figures, overall the two highest in the UK. The other sector just going forward, it relates to, or the issue relates to cash flow. And it's a very similar position in the sense that both sectors, accommodation and food and arts, entertainment and recreation, again, stand out on the basis they have the least number of businesses, or the highest number of businesses with less than 3 months cash flow available, and therefore would identify those sectors as being the most vulnerable in financial terms as well. So that pretty stark, and I think it's fairly safe to assume, whilst that's a UK picture, certainly, you know, if you had more granular data and some of that is available, there would be an equivalent picture presented for the district as well. So I just wanted to set the scene there, if that's okay, and then just move on to the agenda item and the report. So that was really about how we, if I can stop sharing my screen, which would, I don't know whether Alicia, you can do that for me, sorry. So on the actual report, that was around utilising funds, thank you, that have been made available from government. Just to, again, look back over the course of the last year, around, I think it's about £70 million has now been deployed through the council towards businesses to help compensate, if you like, for the impact of both national and local restrictions. A proportion, quite a small proportion, but a proportion of those monies have been made available on a discretionary basis. And what has happened is that those funding quite rightly have been targeting businesses which have experienced very significant drops in trade, and to compensate for the impact of those particular lockdowns or local restrictions, so as we saw Tier 2 and Tier 3. I think we're now reaching a point where we can start to look forward and to think about economic recovery, and that was the purpose behind the Cabinet paper, was to try and think about how we can best support and sustain recovery going forward. That preceded the roadmap that was outlined on Monday, and clearly the two things need to correlate as well. So the report, the Cabinet report, sought to utilise a proportion of the discretionary funds, £1 million, that have been made available, and to dedicate those to, and I thank Charlie for this, because I didn't come up with the acronym, but an Adaptation, Innovation and Resilience Fund, an AIR fund, that was very much about helping to support, you know, the district and key sectors within it to recover from the impact of the pandemic. A draft, and it was a working draft, I would describe it as, of a prospectus for how those funds could be utilised, was also appended to the Cabinet report as well. And I just wanted to highlight three, I think, key ingredients from that prospectus, Chair, if I can. So firstly, it was utilising £1 million of the discretionary funds, but also the recommendation which was endorsed was to utilise £1 million from a business rate reserve pool, so the council's own money, so to speak, to help support and invest in recovery going forward. But very much to emphasise as well, it's not just a return to business as usual. This is about adaptation. This is about doing what it says on the tin to quite potentially a different environment going forward as well. The second main point was around priorities. Clearly, virtually imagine every sector in the district has been impacted, but some have been more impacted than others, undoubtedly as well. And so within that list, you'll see within the prospectus document, there are specific sectors identified, which would be priorities for support going forward. And within that, there are, for example, cultural venues and services identified. So I just wanted to highlight that for the group. And finally, it's not a prescriptive document. It doesn't seek to set a very definitive set of rules in terms of the types of applications that could come forward. But it does identify two funding routes, one for individual businesses or organisations up to potentially £50,000, and secondly for collaborative proposals, and they could be place-based, they could be sector-based, and that was for a higher level of support up to £150,000. So that was the, if you like, the framework that was being created. What does come through for me very much is a new spirit of collaboration. For example, I mentioned the Team Devon work, Pan Devon as well. And how do we utilise that going forward to support and sustain recovery in the district, but also work towards a more resilient and sustainable economy going forward as well. So that was, if you like, the essence of the prospectus document. Within the report, because of the slight uncertainty around timing, the intention was to undertake some targeted stakeholder engagement prior to finalising the prospectus and then launching it. Optimistically, I said April for the formal launch. I think we just need to take stock of the roadmap and see when the best timing is, but that was the intention, Chair. So I'm hoping from today, if people want to, look at the prospectus, feedback, comments, that would be really helpful for us to help finalise and then launch the fund going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'll first invite non-members to speak by raising their virtual blue hand. So does anybody outside of the committee wish to speak? If you could raise your hand. Any questions are welcomed. Now is your opportunity. Okay, so I will bring this into the forum now. Does anybody within the forum have any questions? Crikey. Silence. Okay, Andy, I have a question. Could you give just a couple of examples of the sorts of things within arts and culture and the remit of this forum that might be eligible to apply for such a grant?
So probably the example I would highlight, because we have previously supported through discretionary funds available last summer, for example, the Folk Festival, because it's something that is primarily a cultural festival, but does undoubtedly have a much wider and greater economic benefit for the district as well. And so for me, there's a question about how we support that type of activity going forward that would help to improve in qualitative terms as well, if you like, the offer of the district, as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So that would be one example I would highlight. But deliberately, I think from my perspective, we haven't, we're looking for innovation and ideas to come forward. That the prospectus is not really tightly locked down in terms of the types of applications that could be considered, and that hopefully, from my perspective, is very deliberate, because to allow, we don't have preconceived or fixed ideas as to what could come forward. We're looking for good ideas in that respect.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Councillor Ollie Davey.
Thanks, Chair. Andy, how is this fund going to be administered? Are projects going to apply for the funding, or are we kind of proactively looking for projects? How will it work?
There will be an application process, Chair. So and then decisions will be through a councillor panel to decide on those. I think invariably it will be a bit of support to help projects come forward as well, and we'll, through this forum or other kind of avenues that will need to happen. So a bit of both is probably the answer, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Young. Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at the recommendations, and you're talking about a panel to decide where the funding is to be distributed. And I noticed the proposed members on it. Is there any member from this committee that is going to be on it?
So that's for review, I think. So we do have an existing additional restrictions grant panel, Chair, and we need to make sure we look at that membership as we move forward. But as I say, there is a pre-existing panel already formed, which we may need to refresh the membership of.
Yeah, if I may come back, because this is specifically for arts and culture, it might be useful to have someone who can advise on that.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I would echo that. Any representation we can get in places where decisions are made coming from this forum, I think would be great. But that's obviously for review. So do we have any further questions? Charlie?
Thanks, Chair. I guess it's more of a statement than a question. What I would implore everybody who's present within this virtual meeting, or hopefully hundreds of people listening via YouTube, because I know you have a big fan club, is to really take time to look at this opportunity. And it's a fantastic opportunity for the cultural sector, because it does really identify this sector. And what we do know across East Devon, we have a huge amount of organisations across the whole range of sort of creative arts and cultural sector who've really struggled over the last 12 months. And we're providing a fantastic opportunity that Andy's outlined, and I'm really excited about it. I know Andy is. And it's very keen to get applications in to help support, as you quite rightly said, Chair, in your introduction, a very beleaguered and poorly supported sector. I think we keep coming back to this, that the vast majority of the cultural sector has not benefited from any of the cultural recovery funds. And yeah, this is a great opportunity to focus on East Devon and to help with that recovery and that sort of bounce back. So it's really just imploring everybody to take the time to get involved and to take this fantastic, potentially, once in a lifetime opportunity, to get some, resource in and to try and get back to whatever the new normal is. So please.
Absolutely. Oh, excellent. A dog always cheers things up, doesn't it? Horrible economic times and pandemic, but there's a dog barking, so that's lovely. John Braithwaite, you have your hand up.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just want to check you can hear me. You won't be able to see me because for some reason start video doesn't seem to work, but I'm sure you can do without that. For those who don't know me, I'm a festival director of the Sidmouth Folk Festival. Could I just ask, I seem to recollect that this fund would be open to all organisations unless you had benefited fully, was it, from previous awards? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Andy.
Sorry, Andy, yes.
Yeah, there are some restrictions, but there is anyone who's previously received funding is not debarred from applying here. The only restrictions relate to what was known as state aid, but that is up to kind of €800,000, I think it was. But the point I'm getting at is that we're at a kind of financial realm well beyond, I think, what we'd be talking here as a barrier. So there are, the fundamental point is there is no stop to previous people who benefit from the discretionary funds coming forward under this scheme.
Thank you. Lovely. Good.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Andy and John. Councillor Eleanor Rylance.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to say that morning. I'm really sorry I was late. I was trying to navigate an online system. So I just wanted to say that arts and culture, it's because it's intangible, it's often intangible, it's also often overlooked. And in times of recession, it tends to be one of the things that people look at to target. And I just wanted to say that after a year of lockdown and after a year of a pandemic, one of the things that sustained us all through this time has been arts and culture. And it may have been online, it may have been from people who'd not even been furloughed, who are working in their own time. But we can never overlook the value that something so intangible can have in our lives, and how it's managed to sustain people and keep people going through this ghastly time. And as we come out of the pandemic and as we start meeting each other again, it's going to become absolutely crucial as forums for allowing people to start to socialize again. We absolutely cannot overlook the value that the arts and the culture have for us all, as residents. But equally, it's also going to be something we can offer to the holidaymakers and vacationers who come down over the summer. And I just think it's an absolutely crucial mainstay of our recovery. This, both in terms of our psychology as the people who live here, but also to offer to the people who come here to visit. I just think it's absolutely essential that we support this, because it's our way out of a very dark place over the last year, both financially, but also crucially, psychologically and socially. And I want to thank Andy for putting this report together and bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rylance. Couldn't have put it better myself. I absolutely concur with everything that you said. I think in terms of people's mental health, going forward, anything they can do to, I guess, escape the last year, and people will be chomping at the bit to be involved in anything that brings back a sense of normality and is outside of the existence of their four walls, to be honest. So could not agree more. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will, like Renee and hello, there's a cultural reference for you. I will say this only once. Bonjour. Bonjour. You won't hear any more from me today. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. Just for those who haven't got a clue who I might be, I'm leader of East Devon District Council, and at a personal level, take this part of the council's work as an absolute priority. And so I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago now, we appointed a new cabinet member, Nick Hookway, for culture, leisure and sport. And you'll notice that culture comes first. Leisure and sport are also absolutely critical. To my mind, culture in East Devon is everything, and it can be from Councillor Moulding's amateur dramatic companies in Axminster, and I'm really serious about that, through to somebody doing pottery at home, somebody hosting an arts holiday, all the way through to major theatres, to touring companies, to bands, as you said, Chair, yourself. It can be outdoor events, it can be expanding our gallery provision. Now, you obviously are on this forum, you already know that already, so that's stating the obvious. I work in the arts, I'm a writer, and I work in television and film. And the argument that our sector had to make, particularly in the 80s against the Philistine government then, and then got more traction in the 90s, was that the arts and culture grow the economy. I'm sorry, it's a crass management speak thing, isn't it? But it's absolutely true. They grow the economy, they generate income tax and VAT, but they also increase employment and they increase revenues all round. So what we, let us say, the sort of lovey end of things, must always be mindful of, which is why I'm very grateful to Andy Wood for what he has said and the way in which this is framed. In order to protect the arts and culture and entertainment, we need always to make the economic argument for it. It's non-negotiable now. You can't just go out and say art for art's sake. Well, it's a great thing to say. It is also true. It also will not get you any support from anybody, whether it be a private financier or a council or government. So I'm really pleased with the way in which this is being considered at the moment. You always have to make a case for the arts. It is what the arts manage to do in the 90s and the noughties and all the way through to the present day. Obviously, the support hasn't really gone much beyond furlough for major theatres and opera houses, although they have had huge one-off grants as well. That has to be absolutely said. And perhaps that wouldn't have happened in an environment before now. So to me also, picking up on Councillor Rylance's point, the way in which we grow or encourage arts and culture within the economy also directly affects our tourism offer. And again, I hate using these expressions, but you all know what I mean. It is that we want people to come here, as I do, well, I can hardly say I do anymore, on bucket and spade holidays. I mean, I haven't got a bucket and spade anymore, but you know what I mean, just rollicking on the beach. We definitely want that. But we also want the other forms of engagement, which can be going to see a band in a pub, or going to see an outdoor performance, or going to see an extraordinary, nationally important artist on tour. We want all of those things. And if we do that, it will change East Devon's identity as a tourism brand. Again, that word, but we do have to use it, because at the moment, I believe that we're sort of underplaying our potential on that. So sorry for that homily. I just wanted to signal from the cabinet and from the leader that we are utterly behind all this, and more power to your elbow, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My weak elbows required more power, so I'm glad to have that gift. Okay, so Claire Marshall.
Hello, thank you, Chair, and thanks to everyone for letting me join this meeting today. I run Villages in Action, which is the rural touring scheme in Devon, and that's really great to hear everything that Paul and Eleanor and everyone has said about the importance of arts and culture. Couldn't, agree more. And that's what we're trying to do in a very local village hall level across Devon. I did have a specific question about the AIR Fund, which is that we are a scheme which has activity across Devon, and we don't have an East Devon base, as it were, although we do have partners in East Devon, very strong partners in village halls and community spaces. So in order to apply to the fund, I'm assuming that we will need to evidence that partnership working, or will we need to apply from a Devon-based partner? Will Villages in Action be kind of eligible to apply?
Really good question. Andy, do you have any answer to that?
Yeah, and my perspective, Chair, would be, obviously we were looking for benefit within district. So if there was a collaborative proposal that demonstrated the benefit within district, then that would be eligible.
Great, thank you.
Cheers, thank you for that. Councillor de Sarum, good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much, Chair. I was going to say that it's a very good presentation from Andy, and it's clear that COVID will present challenges, but with vaccinations, obviously more events will be possible, and so financial support from this district will be welcome. And I know that, for example, we've got one of the popular attractions, the Pavilion in Exmouth, and that will be very popular. And I know that it's popular because community groups such as Rotary use it for events like the Last Night at the Proms, which they didn't do because they do one for Rotarians advertising this. And so I think financial support is the key to kickstarting, as one might use that phrase, the local economy for the areas of the arts and culture. So yeah, I warmly support what Andy would have said, and I think it's most excellent, particularly the leader's comments on the fact that my fellow ward member, Councillor Hookway, I'm sure will do a very excellent job in his current duties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor de Sarum. Claire, you still have your hand up. You have another question, or?
Sorry, no, that was me. Forget it.
Okay, that's cool. Brilliant. Right. Well, if there are no further questions on that, doesn't appear to be, we will move to agenda item 6. And I'm going to hand over now to Charlie Plowden and Ruth Gooding, who will introduce some contributors from various sectors of the arts and culture in East Devon.
Thank you, Chair. If I just kick off just before Ruth introduces the guest speakers. I just want to say a couple of things. We've already touched on the impacts of COVID and the severity of that, particularly on our creative arts and cultural sector. And with that in mind, we've pulled together this forum to sort of create a platform to better understand and to listen to all our cultural organisations, our sort of cultural family, for want of a better description, to better understand the impact of the pandemic and the restrictions that have undoubtedly affected the ability to survive and to think about the future. So hopefully those of you who are part of this meeting, you have a sense that we are here to listen and to understand, and it's a platform for all of you to please share with us, your thoughts, your hopes, and your plans, for the future. It's very, very important, for us to understand that, as our leader has, pointed out, and also the chair of the forum. So it's a big challenge. We don't underestimate that, and we want to be able to help you with the bounce back, and hopefully the Air Fund is an important part of that. So with this in mind, and the ambition that we're putting towards you, we want to be able to expand the remit of the forum, and I've been working with Ruth Gooding's about to introduce speakers, who's our Arts Development Gallery Manager, and also the Gallery, Thelma Hubbard Gallery team, to take a lead in repurposing the forum and to work much more closely with our arts and our sort of cultural community. And this is an important step, from today going forward, and you'll be seeing and hearing a lot more from Ruth in terms of how we plan to do that. We're working very closely with our new leadership group, and we are very excited about how we can help provide that support sort of going forward. So just wanted to say that the forum, we hope, and we're going to talk about it under agenda item 7, a little bit more about our thinking and our plans for that. So without further ado, I'll just pass over to Ruth to take on the next agenda item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm absolutely delighted that THG and our team can be in a position to support the district at this challenging time. But I firmly believe that out of adversity comes opportunity, and this really is one, and it's something that I feel that we're in such a unique position to build and grow something really, really special. And again, this is a fabulous opportunity for me to invite the people and the brilliant partnerships that we work with, that we know do great things across the district, to share those sector insights with us. And so we can see the diversity, ambition and brilliance of what already exists, and identify how we can further support them. First of all, I'd like to introduce Tidelines, which is a community art and environment project on the Estuary, which is conceived and coordinated by Anne-Marie Culhane and Joe Salter. Hopefully they're on the call.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, hi Ruth, hi everybody.
Can we share? We're going to share screens. We've got some slides and about 10 minutes, I think. Yeah. Great. Okay. So really nice to meet you all. And do you want to get the slides up?
Sure. That one.
Okay. Bear with us for a second.
Yep, that's working.
Yeah. Are we on?
Okay.
Great. Okay, everyone got our screen. So yeah, welcome to Tidelines. Today we're going to share with you in a whistle-stop fashion who we are, what Tidelines is, what we do, why we think there's a need for Tidelines, who we work with, and next steps in the future. So who are Tidelines? So I'm Anne-Marie Culhane.
I'm Joe Salter.
So I'm a project coordinator. I'm an eco-social artist. That means that my work is about bringing people into connection with the environment and the places that they live. I'm a member of the International Eco Arts Network, And I've set up in the past and run a number of award-winning and long-term projects working across different art forms and working in collaboration. A couple of examples would be, I was founder and director for many years of Out of the Blue, which is an arts and education trust in Edinburgh. It's a community space and an arts centre with 3 or 4 venues now in the city of Edinburgh. And I'm also a creative associate at the Global Systems Institute, which is Exeter University.
Okay, Joe Salter. I'm an artist, graphic designer and project manager. I've previously been involved with 2 successful arts and cultural institutions in Scotland, which is where I developed my understanding of the integration of community culture, that's history, livelihoods, etc., with the arts and location. And I'm currently working with Wild Exmouth designing maps.
So we have an advisory group who work with us very closely. They're from their local residents. They are local organisations from the environment and the cultural sectors. And there are representatives of East Devon Council and the University of Exeter on that advisory group at the moment. We're a not-for-profit community interest company. And we've just done our pilot year. Our timing couldn't have been worse. We've made the most of it. So we literally have had our pilot year during the pandemic.
Okay, so what is Tidelines? And this is a bit like aims and objectives. To focus and celebrate the estuary and coastline, past, present and future. That's to put the estuary and coastline centre stage as an amazing natural local phenomena that it is, and to celebrate it. It's our defining feature.
Eventually.
Okay. To bring together knowledge about science, arts, craft, history, place and nature, and to make vibrant connections between these different ways of experiencing and understanding the place we live. Okay. To increase public understanding of and interest in the estuary and coastline, to develop care of it. That's self-explanatory. To interpret, explore creatively and create artworks, that's arts plus local community plus scientific knowledge, to see and experience it differently. So we are integrating the arts, sciences and the local community knowledge in innovative and new ways. To create opportunities for active participation and real community-led research. An important component of our plan is to create research questions from within the local community, which the university will take forward into active co-designed research, taking the community with them along the journey. To create an ongoing program of events and activities that focus creatively on different aspects of the estuary. So that's a series of events and activities timed and themed around the natural cycles and other aspects of the estuary and coastline, such as tides, movement of species, etc. And through the above, to develop discussion, learning and care for our home, including restoration and re-envisaging new possibilities for sustainability, well-being, resilience and coexistence at a time of climate change and ecological crisis. It's healthy for the community to have a place where they can anticipate change in order to make informed decisions about these changes.
Yeah, I guess just another reflection on that is we see arts and culture as integral to navigating through the climate change and the ecological crisis. So some of the things we've done in this last year, we obviously completely adapted our original proposals for our pilot year, and we have been running online events and activities. So we set up activities that people could participate in from very early on last year, asking questions about the estuary and things they wanted to know, designing and creating subjective and personal maps of how they experience the estuary and coastline. And we've had submissions for maps from different countries as well as all around the estuary for that. People have been writing letters to the sea. So trying to express the more complicated or personal feelings that people have about living here and sharing that with others. photography, where people have submitted photography in a slightly different way to our website, and an almanac where people are starting to share with us key moments that are happening for them, that they're observing on the estuary or that are part of their lives. So we can build up this kind of map or data set of how people really interact and live and enjoy the estuary. The online activities also have included discussions with scientists from the Exeter University, the Marine Biology Association and the Met Office. So we brought the public together with scientists to discuss things that are happening here now. So for example, in the summer when a lot of people were in the water, we ran an event which was looking at how the sea temperature is changing and how that might be impacting on us here in the estuary. We've run webinars and presentations for national organisations and local groups. And our website has, if you go to tidelines.uk, you'll see lots of the community are now writing blogs about their own personal interests in the estuary, creative, historic and heritage, natural. We've also had a project, the Ex-Estuary Box, which has been distributed around the estuary, 350 boxes. And you can see the contents of the box in the top left picture. That's another way of inviting people to share their thoughts and reflections with us. That's been distributed very widely through post and hand delivery, targeting diverse groups and particularly trying to reach out to people who are isolated. And we are going to follow that up as soon as we can with an exhibition where we share back all of the contents of that box and other from our online activities in the summer, as soon as we can get into a space and get people gathered together. The Sea Around Us was an event we ran with the library service where over 100 people read a fantastic and very readable popular science book about how seas and oceans work. And then 2 events were then programmed after that for 6 people to talk through the book with scientists. You can see a picture of one of those happening bottom left. And the final event that we're doing in this pilot year is High Water. On the 30th of March this year, we have our highest tide of the year. And we're using that as a marker point to bring people together around the UK and overseas to talk about high tide, that moment of high tide, and what it means to us on a personal level. It might be through our livelihood, it might be through our studies, it might be through a creative response. So we're having a whole day of people sharing that online, and we're really looking forward to that.
Okay, and just to show you some of the artwork that's come through the mapping part of the project, here are 3 mapping. It's 3 maps. There's 2 more to follow. What's important is that it indicates and shows the diversity of the way that different people experience the estuary, and it's a very expressive way of doing that. Here's one from a young person above us and one from a not so young person below. Moving on.
So why is there a need? We are noticing, we live in Exmouth, we notice that there's increased curiosity about the environment and about the place that we live from all sectors of the community. We're noticing people want to get more involved in thinking about how the estuary works, how environmental change might affect us, what is the state of the place we live and work in, and how can we celebrate that? How can we get together and really make the most of that? We've noticed that there's gaps in information provision for community involvement in the estuary and coast. There's no place to learn more about where we live, a live place, for residents or for visitors. And we also want to bring a greater presence of the arts and foster an all year round creative culture. We want to be part of helping to create a vibrant green and creative culture here. So we're also aware that involvement and engagement in community activities and the natural environment has positive impacts on people's health and well-being. And our job of linking feels really important in many ways. So what we're doing is we're linking the estuary to the more popular sandy coast. We want people to understand that's part of one system and to celebrate both. We're linking communities along and around the estuary. We're linking disciplines as ways of understanding the place we live. And we're trying to co-create new stories to live by. The final 2 are more about sort of academia. So we really want to sort of leverage a more engagement with the universities and the huge knowledge that exists on our doorstep, both University of Exeter and University of Plymouth. And our contact with them shows us that they're looking for ways to engage more directly with the public. Probably Sarah will talk a bit more about that later, but we're in touch with the universities quite a lot. They're keen to enact a civic role, which means that they want to engage more with communities, communicating and enacting their research on a local and regional level. And also they've declared climate emergency and ecological emergency, as has local government.
On this page, you can see some of the people we've been working with over the last year and a bit. I'll just give you a moment to have a look through that. Yeah. Okay, so now we're kind of looking at the next steps and what we, after the pilot year. First of all, we've heard mention of an exhibition and event to share back the artwork and responses from the ex-estuary box, which will invite people into our next phase. We're nearing the end of our pilot phase now. This event will take place in summer 2021 and will enable us to celebrate the work of this year. Tidelines Community co-designs research projects with community academics and students. So we have already embarked on this. Research themes are coming out from the community, and we'll be bringing this together with increasingly bringing the university in to develop this further and to work together, as I think I mentioned earlier. Finding funding and developing funding bids with partners. Well-being and health, tourism, academic, arts and heritage, these are all areas for which the Tidelines project is potentially eligible, and we'll be looking to that, and we are very much in need of funding now. Keep developing links to other projects beyond the estuary. We'll be doing that. We've made a lot of links over the last year. Exploring options for a Tidelines estuary hub. Now, we have an open mind on what form this might take. On this page, you can see different examples. Tidelines could be floating, it could be nomadic, but we're excited about all these possibilities. So we believe that Tidelines can develop into a great asset to the community in many different ways. I don't know if there'll be a chance for questions, but this is one way of getting in touch with us here on the screen now. And if we may, we can send you a simple 2-page document in the next couple of days to give more detail than we've been able to explain in this brief presentation. So thank you very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much. Cheers. We will, we can take some questions now. Councillor Young.
That was really interesting. The ex-estuary obviously covers some various boundaries because it's Timbridge, Exeter and East Devon. I do wonder where you're getting your funding from. I'm involved in habitat mitigation for the ex-estuary, and one of the concerns we have got on the ex-estuary is promoting it too much, and there's going to be too much footfall on the estuary. So that is why we're providing other areas to encourage people to go to. So I don't know how we can marry those two, the concerns of the extra people wanting to go onto the estuary and encouraging people to go to other locations. For instance, we're working on the Clyth Valley Regional Park, and there's other SANGS areas that we're promoting at the moment. So there needs to be a marriage up between our concerns of the demands of the estuary and also what I'm promoting it as well. I wonder if you can come back on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that we know experience it quite often from the train, or they're people that are passing through and see it from lots of different angles. It's not necessarily from access. And I think very much part of education and learning is about people respecting the landscape. The more people know about it, the more they know how to behave appropriately and when to respect the wildlife. I mean, I think we've seen that with the mitigation officers since they've been in place and been able to do more work locally. People have started to understand why it's so important that they stay out of certain areas at certain times of year. So we don't really see that as a problem. In that, probably the idea would be, yeah, that people would treat the landscape with more respect, and people are already showing real interest in how can we make it cleaner. For example, people are noticing that the water quality is really low. So starting to think about things like that, how can we actually improve the environment as well as mitigate for climate change?
Can I just come back on that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Obviously you're talking with the habitat mitigation officers. Sorry, I've got a phone going as well. Hang on a second. Sorry about this.
Just speak, Jeff. We could hear you. We could hear you.
Oh, yeah, be quiet.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to work together on the education of the estuary, and also to encourage people to go to explore the wider area. And obviously we need to get in touch and discuss this further. Thank you.
Okay, cheers, Councillor Young. Councillor de Saram.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I enjoyed the presentation that you gave to the Town Council, and shortly afterwards, I too received my box. So I'm pleased to say that I've got it here, and it hasn't been wasted. And so I'm one of the many 350 you distributed. So well done on that. And you spoke about things for the summer. Do you think there's going to be another beach type event in the summer to educate people, given the fact that the Sideshore Hub in Exmouth is now up and running, and obviously that attracts a lot of attention, and I'm wondering whether whether you may have the appetite and the demand to do something along the beach that way, and partner up with Sideshore. And if you're looking for a hub type place, there are presumably Sideshore still has some of the hubs where Hanging Tide is got. There are probably vacancies within that hub if you wish to rent it or speak to them about it, in order to have a temporary base there, so that you can advertise your premises. So those are some thoughts that I had, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I can confirm I got my box as well, but I'm saving the tea bag for the warm weather this year. Councillor Hookway.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. I'm just really listening in at the moment, but I couldn't help myself at the moment, because I think that was an absolutely fascinating presentation. I've been aware of the Tidelines project from about a couple of years ago. I met Joe about it at another event, and I think there has been some really impressive progress made with this project, and I think its aims of raising awareness and dealing with the ecological crisis and are absolutely crucial at the present time. The estuary is a very impressive natural feature, and it certainly needs to be understood better. I add to, in terms of what Councillor de Saram was saying, that yes, possibly Sideshore might be a view, but there's also, I expect we might be able to fit something into the Queen's Drive space at some point in the not too distant future. And don't forget, there is a meeting of that on the 11th of March at 10 AM, and if you do wish to attend that, to come and let me know. But I think it's a fantastic project, and I wish it every success. Thank you very much indeed, Chair.
Thank you. I echo that. Sally Twiss.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Certainly can.
Great. I just wanted to, good morning, sorry, I've been a bit disconnected this morning.
No worries.
And my camera is also disconnected. I just wanted to ask whether Tidelines have been working with some of the conservation organisations, such as the National Trust, which owns Lower Holsden Farm, the RSPB, which are obviously very involved with the bird life on the estuary, and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're in contact with the National Trust. In fact, we're having a meeting with Tim Daffon East Devon Countryside team who is on our advisory board, and
Right.
Rob, who is, I've forgotten his name temporarily, who is responsible for the National Trust and Lower Housden Farm. And we're having a conversation with him in the next couple of weeks to see how things might dovetail. And I've been working with him through Wild Exmouth as well. And then in terms of other groups, we've been trying to make contact with the Wildlife Trust, and we haven't quite managed that yet. Remember, we've been trying to contact people during pandemics, so it's been really tricky. But our approach is about partnership. So if there is a contact that people have at any of these organisations that you think would be receptive to a conversation, please can you pass that on to us, because that's exactly what we're doing. So yeah, we're in contact with the mitigation team, the ex-estuary partnership, etc. And there's quite a lot of a mosaic of organisations that have an interest and a stake in the ex-estuary. So it's, but we'll do our best to get to them.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your presentation and for all of the questions. Wish you very well for the next year, and please keep in touch with us all. I'll hand you back to Ruth now.
Yes, thank you ever so much. And I highly recommend you do have a look at their website, which is really innovative and interactive. We're now going to jump over to Sidmouth, where Anne Tanner is going to give us an insight into the activities of Sidmouth Museum and its extraordinary collection. Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, I have slides.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We can see them.
You can see good. I have, okay. I'm just having a little difficulty. Okay, good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you what's been happening in Sidmouth. For those of you that don't know anything about Sidmouth Museum, we're a volunteer-run museum. We're owned by the Sid Vale Association. We are celebrating our 175th anniversary this year. We're a registered charity with over 1,500 members. In 1949, the SVA was asked to open a museum for the town. The request came with an offer of an extensive private collection, and the museum opened in July 1950. Our collections grew. We needed larger premises, so we moved to our existing premises at Hope Cottage in 1970. Our displays are over 2 floors in galleries and dedicated rooms. We need to change our displays annually. We try to change 70%. Our visitors are return visitors, and so they expect to see something new. Our most popular permanent exhibition is a large collection of local fossils, giant reptile footprints, and mammoth teeth. We see our role as a museum to conserve, inform, and share our extraordinary heritage in Sidmouth. So for us, 2019 was a very good season. We opened in March with an evening reception and an art exhibition, which ran through till the end of April. We welcomed over 13,000 visitors to the museum. We increased our 3 walks a week to 4. We had a significant increase in special tours and guided walks for coach parties and other groups, which helped our income. During July, we had 5 work experience placements, which were excellent. And we put on a well-attended Sidmouth Cliff Erosion exhibition at Kenaway House on the 19th. Throughout the season, the Young Visitors Group held 4 very successful events. So all in all, it was a very successful season. So we closed the museum at the end of October, and you can see here that we had an extensive list of work we needed to do. One very important piece of work was installing the 2 fireplaces that had been removed from the council offices at the Knoll and were donated by the East Devon District Council. We were fortunate that Sid Vale Association received a legacy which was earmarked for the museum. And so we were able to fit secondary double glazing to help our drafts and cut our energy bills. And we built a new ground floor extension. We actually, and also it was good, I'll mention Thelma Hulbert Gallery here. We were very excited that we were going to be able to have a display to open the new season with. So everything was completed by the 10th of March. I'll say a little about the fireplaces. One fireplace, I believe this one was actually in the office, although the chairman had a fireplace, then I believe there was also the same fireplace in the committee room. What was important to us was the initials carved in the keystone here. Richard Napoleon Thornton, he was a great Sidmouth benefactor. And the tiled fireplace, the tiles in the fireplace are very rare. And so we wanted to preserve that for Sidmouth. This was a joint venture between Sidmouth Art Society, the East Devon District Council, and Sidmouth Museum. It took a stonemason and his assistant 4 weeks to extricate the fireplaces. The worst one was definitely the tiled fireplace, and some tiles had broke into 30 pieces and had to be restored. You can now see the fireplaces in the museum, one on the ground floor and the tiled fireplace in the archaeology room. The stonemasons arrived on the 13th of November, and the 2 weeks promised stretched into 5 weeks. So 10 days before opening, 10th of March, we welcomed the Art Society and East Devon councillors to view the fireplaces. We had some more work from the Low Vision Group and the Sidmouth College students, but COVID was really becoming a great worry to us. And on the 16th of March, we made the decision to cancel the event for members, a book launch, and very, very sadly, the opening of the museum on the 20th of March. We had a wonderful new look museum and it was mothballed. We didn't know for how long. Why did we stay closed last summer? Well, in April 2020, we carried out our COVID risk assessment. Our historic building has narrow staircases and some very small rooms, and social distancing then at 2 meters and then down to 1.5 was impossible. Many of our displays required hands-on interaction with visitors. 90% of our volunteers are over 70 and were considered vulnerable. Even some of the partners were vulnerable if they were younger than 70. In August, we reassessed the situation and nothing had changed. We had surveyed our volunteers in both April and again in July, and their confidence was still very low. We decided to stay closed until COVID was no longer an unmanageable risk. So we've got plenty of time now. How could we improve our visitors' experience? We needed to find, and I think all museums feel like this, even before COVID reared its ugly head, we need to find new ways to connect with our visitors, and most importantly, to give greater access to our archives and collections. Digitization was really the way forward. We carried out an assessment and we identified problem areas with our archives, physically with our premises. So we designed a project to develop and deliver our first, and I apologize for digital, offer. So we applied for a Southwest Museums recovery grant for the cost of the equipment. And luckily the grant application was successful. So hundreds of volunteer hours later, we have achieved our desired outcomes, which were no dead zones anywhere in the building, a separate guest network, QR codes for all displays, And most importantly, and what I want to show you today, the digital photo box history of Sidmouth. Our old system was that we had this box, a very large wooden box that housed 122 A2 size panels displaying photo images with text. I'm told that the two I have in the on the slide are the best. Then some of them are a lot worse than this. Our stewards claimed that 80% of our visitors looked at these panels and that they used them to help answer visitors' questions. The only way to view the panels was by lifting them out of a wooden photo box one by one. So our aim was to reimagine and radically upgrade and expand the photo box concept. We wanted to offer greater flexibility, which digitization does do. And so the visitors got an improved and increased access, and it was kept up to date. So we were determined to deliver a unique display experience, which was interactive display unit showing the history of Sidmouth, 23 topics with over 250 panels. So I'm going to run you through one topic, but I'll show you the two starter screens. So this is what the visitor will see, the operating instructions. This is for the one we've shown you here is for the pedal system, which is helpful for disabled people. And if we don't want visitors still to be hands-free. So they operate 1, 2, 3 with the pedal system. The topic screen is rather like a Netflix selection screen. You run along left to right, up and down to select your topic, and then you start the topic. So the slides I wanted to show you today, it's a good example. The information and sketches and photos are from our archives, and they never see the light of day. So Peter Orlando Hutchinson, he was very proud of his great-grandfather, who was the last governor of Massachusetts. He liked to travel abroad, and luckily for us, he always took his sketch pad and watercolors with him. He traveled around the UK. He recorded local events, often with humor, and we could tie up the sketches and watercolors with dates in his diary, so we could get the information from the diary. He was always one of the first people to arrive on the beach. It didn't matter what the weather was like, and he would stand there and he would sketch. Lots of his detail on this particular shipwreck from his diary. Even, as he says, even though it was cold, he managed to sketch and coloured when he got home. He was a keen archaeologist. He was fascinated with geology. He sketched showing himself with a walking stick. He had suffered with a limp from childhood. He was an expert on the geology of Sidmouth. His records of the evolution of Sidmouth's Jacob's Ladder are just so important to us. It was before, the starting point was really before photography got going, and his diaries were invaluable. He loved the military. This is on Salcombe Hill, which is opposite where I live. And every day I imagine this regiment charging up and down in front of me. He volunteered for Sidmouth's Voluntary Artillery Corps, and he was offered a promotion, which he had to think long and hard about, because he didn't know whether he couldn't possibly have a local uniform. He would have to get the uniform from his tailor, and it was going to cost a lot of money, but he accepted the offer. He loved castles and cannons. He had his own cannon, which we have in the museum. He was invited to the Marquis of Northampton's second literary soiree, and for him this would have been the high point of the year. But he had time to sketch. I don't know whether he sketched them while he was there or when he left. He lived at 4 Coburg Terrace, and these are views that he sketched and painted. And then he moved to the old chancel. The old chancel was made up of, when Sidmouth Church was remodeled in 1859, 1860, he had most of the church and built the old chancel. We are very fortunate because we can look out of our windows, in particular the room with the tiled fireplace, and we can see the old chancel. So for us, Peter Orlando Hutchinson was probably the greatest, most important Victorian citizen of Sidmouth. And on that point, I'd like to end my talk. I hope that I've been able to give you an insight into our museum, our 2020, and our ongoing quest to make our collection more accessible to our visitors through digitization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A history lesson as well, which is
Yes.
I have learned something today. Do we have any questions from inside or outside of the forum? Encourage anybody who wants to ask, just raise your electronic hand. Okay. It appears all of the questions people may have had have been answered. Thank you very much. It was really, really interesting, and well done for hanging in there and making what are probably the right decisions for you and your volunteers as well. Must have been really, really difficult decision to make. Yeah. Well, hopefully this year will be much improved for you and everybody. Okay. I will hand you back to Ruth now.
Yes, thank you ever so much, Anne. We're now going to jump over to Honiton, where Ruud Jansen Banibar, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, who helped build and manage East Devon Excellence, is going to give us some insights into the tourism sector.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. You're actually handing me back to Ottery St Mary rather than Honiton, but I'll forgive you that. In my day-to-day job, I run Mazard Farm Holiday Cottages here on East Hill, but I'm involved with 3 organisations that have a bearing with what today's discussions are about. I chair the Ottery St Mary Food and Families Festival, as well as Taste East Devon, and I can tell you a little bit about that at the very end, because that's not really what you've invited me for. I also am the interim chair of East Devon Excellence, as you just said, and that is a group of about 45 East Devon hospitality businesses whose main aim it is to work together and to help put East Devon on the map as a high-end tourism destination. We've been doing that for a number of years. There are a few organisations involved that you know very well, like Seaton Wetlands, Thelma Ulbert, and the Beehive. We work very closely together with East Devon AONB, and we have started increasingly discussing with East Devon District Council, in particular through Rob and Jerry, what we can do in order to really boost the economy of East Devon from a tourism and broader sense, hospitality, food and drink point of view. The aim is very much to understand, and all the members do understand this, that the sum of the parts is always much bigger than the individual businesses can actually achieve on their own. And as a result, we've done a number of things over the years in order to help manage that. Some of you may have seen, I haven't got slides, but I can do a little visual for the camera. Some of you may have seen this map, which is in many places around East Devon and has been so for the last 3 years. And it's a map on the one hand which points out where the various interesting parts of East Devon are from a tourism point of view, but it also then has listings of our members under the heading Stay, Explore, and Eat. Now, those are the 3 kind of headings that we started with, but we're looking at broadening that a bit. And it's interesting to hear, I was very encouraged actually to hear that quite a few of the people today have mentioned the tourism word, because I think one of the things that we can all do much better of in East Devon is pull stuff together. There is lots happening, as this meeting has very much shown, but I think to say it carefully, it's not always aligned that well in my mind. I run a business that attracts about 2,000 tourists a year to East Devon, and I work very hard to try and inform people of what's going on. But it's quite hard because it is very fragmented. There is lots of stuff happening that I think by pulling it together can do a lot more. So that's definitely one of the key objectives of East Devon Excellence for this year, and that is to start talking to the likes of Butley Salterton Literary Festival, to talk to Sidmouth Folk Week, to talk to all sorts of events that are happening and that are currently not necessarily talking with one another as much as they could. And I particularly say that because from a tourism point of view, we never struggle filling July and August, definitely not this year. But the shoulder season, as it's called, the months outside of the main school holiday weeks, we all have capacity, and we would be delighted to fill that capacity better than we are at the moment. And that in itself is the #1 objective in order to improve productivity in the sector, which is a massive objective of East Devon District Council's economy section, and also to improve obviously the financial viability of us all. And I think culture and the arts can play a massive role in that. So with that in mind, we're hoping this year to reach out, and I very much invite everyone on this call who has something to say about that to contact me afterwards. We very much want to much better bring together what's happening in the theatres, what's happening in the art galleries, what is generally happening around the county all year round, so that all our members can use that, can utilise that to hopefully help attract more people into East Devon from the outside, but also to more and better inform people within East Devon itself, because we're not just there to, as East Devon Excellence, we're not just there to get more people to come to East Devon. We're also there to help the people of East Devon to make decisions about stuff they want to do, places they want to go to, places they want to eat and drink, etc., etc. So I've shown you the map. We have obviously got a website. We have fairly active social media, and as I said, we're also linked to an event called Taste East Devon that was planned for last year. It was fantastically. It's going to be it was going to be in 2020 an 8-day feast of food and drink all over East Devon. To mention a few that were involved: Darts Farm, River Cottage, Piggott Coombe, Deer Park, Otter Brewery. Those are just some of the businesses that were involved at the time. We have just started our discussions again for 2021, and we're discussing next week where we are after the Prime Minister's messages this week about the roadmap to reopening. And watch this space. There will be a major event on that level in East Devon at some stage this year. Whether it will be before the summer or after the summer is something that we will hopefully be able to share with you quite soon. And then finally, my other hat is the Ottery St Mary Food and Families Festival. I've noticed there are 2 Ottery town councillors on this call. We will decide whether this will happen, and we have that meeting next week. It's currently planned for the 5th of June. and looking at the roadmap and looking at what is and isn't possible, we think there is a possibility of doing something even with certain mitigating plans in place. But again, watch this space. We will know more about that in the next few weeks. But we're definitely hoping to do something this year. If it's not in June, it'll definitely be in September.
Thank you very, very much, Reid. Sounds like there's quite a lot of correlation between your aims and some of the things we're hoping to do with the forum. So it'd be really, really good to try and work together on that. Does anybody have any questions? Charlie?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just quickly, Rude, just say I'm Charlie Plowden. I'm the service lead for Countryside Arts and Leisure. Very keen to talk to you about how we can collaborate with you with getting content onto your platform. So I think there's a lot of mutual areas we can discuss following this meeting. So I just want to register that one with you. So I'll be in touch soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
See, we're a matchmaker here, aren't we? Councillor De Saram.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that Taste of East Devon sounds very good idea, and I'm really sorry it's been postponed, obviously. And I'm thinking that maybe you could follow it up with a celebration of the coastal towns for this summer. Because I think the coastal towns will be very popular when we're allowed to visit. And I think that the Taste of East Devon spread across the coastal towns would be very popular. And I'm sure that in Exmouth, we would particularly welcome such activity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor De Saram. We do like our food here. Councillor Hookway.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, very interesting presentation. Thank you, Ruud. I absolutely agree with you that the district needs to promote its tourism in a much more effective way. The need to pull things together, statement that you made, I absolutely agree with. And I think that that's something that long term we're going to have to work towards. I absolutely support what Charlie said and hope you'll be able to have a chat with him and see if we can work together to actually make things better for tourist businesses and the visitor economy in East Devon. Okay, good luck to you on that. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hookway. Councillor Jackson, Sarah.
Thank you. Can you hear me first? It was a good start. My microphone's not very reliable. I think the only query is that obviously our focus is tourism across East Devon, but quite often we've got, as we border several other counties, it's definitely worth, I would have thought, having a dialogue with those neighbouring counties. And Axminster particularly sits obviously between Somerset and Dorset, albeit still in East Devon. So I'm wondering, and that's just one example, we sit on a border of 3 counties effectively, which might be unusual, but I'm wondering whether that is also lends it to be quite a good candidate for these sorts of type events. But also I'm quite keen to see that we are still having that dialogue with other counties, because of course tourists that come to Bridport, for example, don't stay necessarily in Dorset, and again those that visit and Devon. So it's especially around the periphery of the district and the county. I think those dialogues are going to be pretty crucial. Thank you.
Might be good to quickly say something about that. I mean, Axminster is very much on our map, as you will see if you manage to pick one of the maps up. We have members there. We have, I mean, River Cottage is obviously the most prominent one. But no, as far as we're concerned, we will look at the fringes. I mean, from East Devon's point of view, and particularly from a tourism point of view, I've always said that we consider Lyme Regis as our adopted coastal town, partly because our guests love it, and partly because actually, if the map hadn't been drawn so badly, Lyme Regis would have been part of East Devon. So I'm absolutely with you. But from our point of view, I mean, we obviously try and focus where we can, and we still have a lot to achieve within East Devon. So as East Devon Excellence, our prime focus at the moment is to really make sure that all the really important players are on board. And I would say we probably have about 70% of those at the moment, but our aim is to get those other 25% as well, because once you have everyone that is anyone in your area around the same table, you can achieve so much more.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Curse those cartographers, eh? Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to hear from Ruud, because I think there's a lot of correlation between the hospitality and the arts sector, and which have both, of course, been the two sectors probably most impacted by COVID. So I think there's a lot of synergy there that we can use to work together. And of course, lots of towns use events in order to extend the holiday season and the holiday offer. And I'll just echo what Councillor de Sarum said, but change it slightly. We are going to get a lot of visitors to the coast, but it would be good if we could tempt some of them inland, actually, because if everybody crowds around the coast, we're going to have a very crowded East Devon, but a rather empty centre of it. So I think actually encouraging people up to Ottery and Honiton and so on would be a very good way to go. But I think there's a huge amount of possibilities there, and I'm certainly in favour of extending the season by putting on specific events that bring visitors to the area. And it's always been a bit of a mystery to me that in Exmouth we kind of promote our kind of bucket and spade offer, but we have a fantastic estuary here, and yet we never seem to, it doesn't seem to me that we make enough of the fact that we have international wildlife here, and there's an awful lot to be seen. I mean, I don't understand why we don't have hundreds of bird watchers coming down and staying in the bed and breakfasts out of season over the winter when the birds are most visible. So I'm all for kind of promoting it in different ways and going for those sort of niche markets as well, because they are often the ones that will extend your season.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davey. And of course, we have a perfect example of what can be done with that particular group, with Seaton Wetlands. And you know, I think they're a good example to follow. Councillor Moulding.
Thank you, Chair. My question really is for both Ruud and maybe for Charlie, and that is to ask what our current relationship is with our TICs, because that normally is a very prominent way of advertising tourism in the area. And I guess those TICs have probably been mostly closed over the last few months. And maybe you could explain how we're going to start now to promote tourism through organisations like the East Devon Excellence Project, and indeed through our TICs.
Ruud or Charlie, do you want to come back on that?
I'm not sure how many TICs there are left, actually. Sidmouth, Exmouth, is that it? Okay. I mean, we certainly make sure that our maps are in there. But other than that, it's a difficult one, really. I think we're very much focused on promoting the areas through our members. So in other words, coming back to the map, all our accommodation members and our food and adventure members all have these maps on prominent display. And the whole point is always to try and make sure that when people are here, that they stay in the area. I mean, a good example is when we first opened Mazard Farm, in the first few years, we never supplied the big Devon map that you've all seen. It's called the data map, and it's huge. It's very colorful, it's very bright, and it's got adverts all around the outside. Because we feel that people, when they're here, they don't have to travel to the North Devon coast in order to enjoy themselves. They can stay local. But what we found was that a lot of people were actually bringing that map back. They went to the Donkey Sanctuary, or they went to Escott Wildlife, Escott, etc., and they always came back with this map. So with that in mind, we thought, well, we have to have our own, because we want to make sure that people know that when they're here, literally within a 15-20 minute radius, there's just so much on their doorstep. And we try and do that through having these maps displayed at all the prominent parts where people go. So the Donkey Sanctuary, the big hotels, the big places where people are staying, the smaller places where people are staying. But it's work in progress, because they're expensive to print, even though print is not that expensive anymore. But for a small body like us, you know, a few thousand quid is quite an expense. So we're working on different ways of doing that. And the TICs can play a role in that, but I must say they have become quite small in what they achieve from my point of view.
Yeah, Chair, I was just going to say very, very briefly, I'm no expert on this, Andrew, but I know the funding model changed a wee while ago, and I think, I know, for example, Seaton TIC, I think is supported by Seaton Town Council. Sidmouth might have the same arrangement with Sidmouth Town Council. So there's been, you know, quite a bit of change there, but it's an interesting question. And obviously those that are still in existence, I see will play an important part in terms of being able to help us promote the activities we're talking about today as a really important platform. But yeah, I think it's something we need to sort of, you know, come back to and have a look at their role.
Thank you, Charlie. And I think maybe, you know, maybe in future, if we do see that there is a potential role for them to play, then we should think about inviting them to one of these meetings. Councillor Moulding, do you want to come back?
Yes, if I could, Chair. I mean, the TICs are absolutely crucial. And Axminster, which is my patch, obviously, and not a coastal town, not a resort, but up till the year before last, when obviously things were active, they have at least 10,000 visitors recorded at Axminster TIC. So surely that is a vital constituent of our tourism offer, and we should be engaging with them as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, Councillor Moulding. That is duly noted. Okay, thank you very much, Ruud. Really, really interesting. I will hand you back to Ruth again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruud. Yes, I really enjoyed hearing the spirit of collaboration going forward. We're now going to jump over to Exeter to hear from Sarah Campbell, who is the Associate Director of Arts and Culture at the university and who's been a really supportive partner to THG in the last couple of years. Over to Sarah.
Oh, good morning, folks. So just give me a moment whilst I bring my PowerPoint up. Okay, so activating creativity is the mission for arts and culture. So I just want to give a bit of a whistle-stop tour about what arts and culture is and what purposes we're trying to serve. So a new strategy was launched for the University of Exeter a couple of years ago, and it took a good couple of years to develop. And so the key aims are listed there about developing purposeful encounters, enriching our cultural environment, and unlocking resources and potential. As you can see from the audiences, it is inward and outward facing. So the university is a very large, complex organisation. There's about 5,000 staff, 22,000 students across 4 campuses and 2 counties. And so with the business plan for developing the new strategy, it was really 2-pronged. One was thinking about the network building of creativity across the university so that there's a better understanding internally of who's doing what and a kind of a sort of critical mass of activity. And then what I was told for my interview for the job was that the university has a reputation for only coming down off the hill when it wants something. And I have worked in museums and galleries at national level and regional level and for local authorities and universities. And I have a feel for what it is to be on either side of that dynamic. So it's really important to me with arts and culture that we are good allies and good peers, and we're part of that community and participating. So building those relationships outside the university is also important so that the university becomes a bit more porous, so that hopefully arts and culture can help be a conduit in and out, because you've got plenty of academics wanting to connect with communities and plenty of communities wanting to connect with academics. So the strategy was something I inherited. All that work was done before I arrived. I started January 2019. And there were two key drivers for me. One was to develop a focus. When you've got all art forms and all audiences, it's absolutely enormous. So we're very keen to tell the stories about creative process. So that is understanding ideas generation, the rigor of research that artists put into their work, lovely examples that you've seen this morning, and then making use of interdisciplinary practice. So we don't just sit within humanities, we work with engineers and bioscientists and the business school, and we're really interested in what happens when you bring arts and sciences together. So those are key themes for our activity. And the other is profile. If we don't tell people what we're up to, people don't know. And so we've invested a lot of energy into our communications and marketing, developing networks, and through programming, raising the profile of this work. So fortunately, just in the nick of time before lockdown, we were able to launch a new website, and we have a collection of social media platforms that we use as well. And this is really our home for telling stories. We want it to be like a sort of Alice going down the rabbit hole, that you come in to look for one piece of information and you end up sort of following your nose, and there's all sorts of other stuff that you might enjoy. So we've got music, we've got poetry, we've got events listings, we've got a resources page that will lead you into a lot of different creative research activities across the university. So we're trying to build this hub model for creativity. And with our programming, I'm going to speak a little bit more about the fellowships and the commissions in a moment. But broader than that, there are other activities that we help promote. So the Environment and Sustainability Institute, ESI, which is on the Penryn campus in Cornwall, run the Creative Exchange. So this is a series of 6 partnerships each year between an artist and a climate science academic, and they have a small display space on campus where there are exhibitions. We've had to move everything online, so there's going to be a bit of a greatest hits collection this year of a virtual gallery that will be representing a number of these pairings from the last, I want to say 12 years, maybe it's less than that, 8 years. And then we have a termly creative dialogue series. So this is a high profile practitioner from the arts, often from film and media. And this term we moved online, and we had Stephen Fry speak, and to give a sense of the potential of a digital reach. In a lecture theatre, we can have maybe 200 people. And we had 1,400 people sign up for the Stephen Fry talk. It was just extraordinary. So obviously the name becomes quite a magnet, but there is amazing potential has come through this digital requirement that we now have. Partnerships are vital. It is all about people with this work, and we run some events. Events are very time-consuming activities to do well, so we're spread quite thinly, but we try to share what we do through events too. So the fellowships, we have 3 each year, and this is an open call out to artists to apply, and they're interviewed, be embedded into a research project for 4 to 5 weeks. And the cliche is that the scientists do all the thinking and the artists come along and make pictures about the thinking, and that it's a sort of solely a communication tool. And what we want to really promote around creative process is that artists have a way of seeing the world, a way of processing and responding to information, a way of asking questions. And when you put that into a research context, it can bring different ways of thinking to a problem. And so it can help kind of open up thinking. And so we're really looking for a genuine exchange where both parties come away feeling the richer for it. And so far it has led on to artists. The researchers always want to keep their artists. And it's supported funding opportunities for those artists to develop further. And then our arts commissions are broader reach and quite varied in what we do. So this is working longer term. So we've completed one 18-month project with Fiona Benson, and we're in the middle of the next one with Simon Pope at the moment, who is looking at the microbiopolitics of cider making and incorporating traditions like the wassail. So we were going to do one this year, but unfortunately, of course, had to be cancelled. And so with partnerships, so this is really about how we bring people together. So the Thelma Holbert Gallery was one of my early discoveries when I moved to Exeter, and it is such a fantastic asset, and I really enjoy working with Ruth. And so as always, we're really keen to do more together. We had fantastic plans to do joint work around the Richard Long that got a bit scuppered. But Ingrid Pollard is an extraordinary photographer, well-established reputation, and we are both partners in quite a complex project. There's about 5 of us working together to bring Ingrid's work to show at Thelma Holbert and have programming connections through the libraries and through the Devon and Exeter Institution and through us as well. So huge potential there. And then a few examples below of other organisations we've worked with. And this is just to give a sense of the scale. So the last time we got a full year of events in, we ran about 50 activities with a reach of just over 4,000 people and quite a variety of types of activities you can see from the list below. Now, Exeter Culture are not me, but I just wanted to sort of make sure that these guys were mentioned because they also have a fantastic website, and they are Arts Council funded, and they are hosted by the university. So Arts and Culture and Exeter Culture, 2 different things, but we talk to each other. And the remit for Exeter Culture, yes, it is city focused, but I think they do take a sort of Exeter and surrounds. It's a sort of, it is a bigger picture than that. And I thought a key document that they've worked on that might be of interest to the group is their cultural strategy. So this is a small published booklet. It's available on their website. And these are the priorities for Exeter City Council over the next, I think, 5 years. So culture and the environment, culture and well-being, heritage innovation, creative making, and cultural literacy and learning. And that last one is really key because the city secured UNESCO City of Literature status, I think 2019. And it is an amazing international network to be part of. And I think what's worth keeping in mind is that this is literature in its broadest sense. So it includes spoken word, it includes performance. I think it's more helpful to think of it about storytelling and how we tell stories, how we tell our own stories, how we share stories. And there is funding that comes with this. So that is another key project to follow, and keep an eye out because they've just recruited a new director who's going to be amazing, and there will be more projects to come. So just brief, that's me. The website's at the bottom. I strongly urge you to sign up to our mailing list, which is in the footer of our website. And that comes out once a month and has lots of details about what we're up to. So I think that's me.
Thank you very much. I will open it out to questions now, if anybody has any questions. Really, really interesting talk that. I mean, we forget that Exeter, you know, it is outside of East Devon, but it has it's such a big, powerful resource. And I think the way that the gallery, the Thelma Holbert Gallery, has been accessing expertise and funds from the university has been brilliant. Long may that continue. Do we have any questions then? No. Okay, well, thank you very, very much. Really, really interesting presentation. We hope to see you here again and hear from you again. Ruth.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It's just so lovely to hear the wider context of what we're trying to do sits within and how we can connect. I think that is definitely how we will thrive going into the future. We're now going to go back to Sidmouth, I think John's in Sidmouth, who is the event director of the Sidmouth Folk Festival for over 10 years and is going to give us an insight into their activity.
Well, good morning, Just. Apologies again for no picture. You're not missing much, but I don't have a presentation, but I have an awful lot of stuff to say in a very short space of time, I hope. So let's talk about what's happened to the festival over the last 12 months. And cutting to the chase, at the end of March, we we bowed to the inevitable and cancelled 2020. Cutting to the chase again, that left us looking into the abyss, basically, because we'd already been running the 2020 festival, had sold 1,000 tickets, and we'd spent 5/12 of our base revenue. So we had a problem at that point, and we had to mount 3 important projects, all of which we'd never done before. The first one of which was cancelling a festival. This might sound like just putting out a press release, but actually far from it. It's a huge logistical exercise when you've already been selling tickets. Our objective there was to make sure that we retained what we thought was a strong loyalty from our customers, to encourage them to transfer their tickets, to pull them over to 2021. We were lucky in that. We got the loyalty we were looking for, with 70% of those week season tickets going over to 21, which was very, very important for us, of course, because it's to some extent cash flow. It's rather more involved than that, but to some extent it's cash flow. That gave us a little bit, together with some Just Giving. It gave us an opportunity to look out of the abyss a little bit and into, well, what do we do now? Because we were by no means, we were a million miles from being safe at that point. And we realized that at least initially, that our salvation was in our own hands. And so we mounted 2 other projects again, which we'd never done. We did a huge crowdfunder that involved, for those who have done crowdfunders, apologies. For those who haven't, it involves donations for rewards. And we managed to find, through the generosity of our sponsors, our artists, and the numerous other people, we managed to find 1,000 rewards, and more than 1,000 donors. There was a lot of interest, which that particular campaign gave us, apart from being very successful in monetary terms. So again, contributing to our livelihood and to our success, to our survival, I should say. And at that point, we realized that we needed a strong contact with our loyal base, with our customers, and as it transpires, other people too. And so at short notice, with 2 months to go, we decided to create a virtual festival. That helped us to do 2 things. It helped us to give our artists an opportunity to perform in front of an audience virtually, but also it gave us the opportunity to speak to our customers, to say we're still here, and to show that we did care. We weren't just going into hibernation until 2021. The result of that, it was timed. The virtual festival was timed to give the crowdfunder a boost right at the end. Crowdfunder is a tricky thing. It's a huge amount of work, and you need very good advice, which we had. The virtual festival lasted for just over a week. It had 2 major concerts in it, and overall, together with the archive material, the material that we'd locked away but didn't show online, we had about 40,000 views, and something like 1,200 participants in our workshops, online workshops. This, in its own right, was a fairly major undertaking, and it took us a while to unpack it at the end. It's something we'd never done before, and it was fantastically illuminating as to what our customers thought of us. We got a lot of feedback from it, and we also got a lot of feedback, of course, from the crowdfunder as well. But importantly, we found that we were reaching a new audience or 2. We found that we were reaching people who couldn't come to Sidmouth Folk Festival and wouldn't be able to because they were in another country, or because they just couldn't travel like that, but they had always known about it and wanted to be involved in it. And so we realized there was an audience there for the future. Also, there was an audience of people who said, yeah, I'd heard about that, and now actually I'm going to be coming. So to some extent, you can't count numbers on those things, but it did show that the more you put yourself about, the better the live event will be. But nothing substitutes really for the live event. And so we had to go forward from there. And clearly, having done those 3 projects, we were looking around for the next stage of survival. And so we spent a lot of the autumn in 2 ways. Firstly, in applying for grants. We were pleased to be successful in the East Devon Discretionary Grant and with Culture Recovery Fund. We're now going further than that into the next stage of culture recovery, which goes through till June. But also, we won't have any income, of course, until we get to the festival itself. But we've had to tread a careful and difficult path, as you can imagine. This event, which is 9 days long and has over 750 individual events in it, spread across something like 30 venues in and around the town, is one which you can't easily replicate in an uncertain environment. And the problem with the present environment, notwithstanding what has just been laid out as a roadmap, is that there are significant uncertainties. So we've had to push all our plans back. We would normally be planning and launching tickets. We would have launched in December for 2021. We can't do that at the moment because we don't know what we're going to be providing for certain. We know we're going to have a live festival. That's now pretty sure. But exactly what the conditions will be, whether social distancing will still be there, and in what form, and we'd love to wait till the 21st of June, I believe, which is step 4 in the roadmap, but we can't. So that's something that we won't be able to. Is that you, Ruth?
No, it's fine. It's just somebody waiting to get into the meeting.
Oh, okay, sorry, apologies. Right, so
No
we're now into, it's a massive undertaking. It turns over about £750,000. It doesn't make much profit because it's a complex, highly complex festival to run, involving music, song, dance, storytelling, huge participation, about a couple of hundred workshops running during the week. It's something that you can envisage running year on year, but not in the current environment. And so we're still struggling, and we will be struggling for a little time yet with what we're going to put on in 2021. But there will be a festival, that's without any doubt at all, unless the world falls in around the vaccine program or other things like vaccine mutants appear, which are not really covered by the current vaccines. Then we will have trouble. But generally, the festival's policy is to develop online a much greater online presence than we had last year, which, if you like, although it was successful, was only the beginning of the potential that we have for reaching audiences outside the live event. We have we've created a development board, which is one of our other objectives, which is to bolster and support our younger element of the audience. We have about 70,000 attendees altogether during the 9 days of the festival, and the younger element has to be supported. They're not natural people to come to folk events necessarily. Some are, but not in large numbers. So we're doing something with a development board which is aimed at that. We also have a very strong use it local, make it local, in terms of using suppliers. And over the last couple of years, we've really strengthened our activities in getting rid of plastic, for example. We deal in tangible things, not intangibles. We got rid of 30,000 single-use glasses in 2019. Hope that gives you just a little flavor of what we're doing. We're currently applying to the Let's Create Arts Council, what used to be Grants for the Arts, for enhancements to the online festival. We're looking at other opportunities because we have ongoing costs. And if we don't have ongoing costs, we shut the thing down. We can't restart. So we've got to keep our team together. And that isn't difficult. We've got a lot to do at the moment. But I think probably trying to encapsulate all of that in a few minutes will have given you some idea of what Folk Festival is about. It did manage through its virtual festival to have its 66th, so we're into the 67th. That doesn't mean we stand still. There's a whole range of things which are moving forward all the time, apart from celebrating the tradition. I think I'll stop there as time has beaten us.
Thank you very, very much indeed. I can't imagine how complicated and how, especially with the uncertainty around the roadmap, and the mind boggles because you're planning for something that you can't plan for. So you certainly have my utmost respect for holding that together, I think. We will just invite questions. Charlie.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quickie. Just say absolutely 100% empathise with John's predicament. We've got Graham Whitlock, our Man Pavilion Theatre Manager. I know he's tuning in, and we've been wrestling the same issues with getting the theatre up and running. And I know Graham's in active dialogue with Paul Taylor Mills, who runs our highly successful summer season programme, and it is incredibly challenging at the moment to get any kind of certainty how it can work. So I think this year, I think you're absolutely right, is to sort of be patient. Our view, I think it's fair to say, discussions having with Graham, is we've got to try and get something, up and running at all costs. It's not going to be how it was before, but we've got to have that presence, that visibility, and we're working really, really hard to try and make that happen. And who knows? There are a lot of things that are out of our hands, and we're just sort of focusing on what we can do. So fingers crossed with that. And I know how important the festival is to the local economy, as the summer season is to Sidmouth as well. And we're sort of coming back to these sort of same issues about the value importance of these high profile events to our visitor economy. So we wish you the best of luck with that. And I just want to say just a quickie, Chair, with Sarah Campbell's presentation, which was excellent. Really interested to know about, which I'll follow up afterwards, with what Exeter are doing with their Culture Forum, because it's highly pertinent to our final agenda item as well. So lots of learning I think we can take from that work as well. Thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you, Charlie. Just go back to you, John. It must take tremendous courage, I think, to commit to carrying on in such circumstances. So again, we thank you for that. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Joe. I've got to declare an interest here because I've been a regular visitor to Sidmouth Festival, and I've even performed there. I think. Sorry?
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're quite right to highlight the uncertainty that we're all facing at the moment. This is the really difficult thing, that we just don't know at the moment how fast we're going to come out of lockdown, what the implications of that will be. But you also highlight the possibilities in the digital reach that you can achieve. A couple of music sessions that I go to online, one started relatively locally, and all of a sudden half the people coming to it are now from the United States. So there are a lot of possibilities there. But as you also rightly say, John, there is nothing to beat the experience of actually being in the same place at the same time. And assuming that we are still going to have some measure of social distancing when the festival is staged, I wonder what the impact of that would be, because one of the problems for venues has been that if you have to adhere to social distancing, it severely limits the numbers, and that can make the whole process unviable, because you simply cannot afford to take all the overheads with the limited numbers that you can bring in, and the implications that has for your income. So I just wonder if you have plans to deal with that.
I wish I could say that we have 100% answer to that, Ollie, but of course we don't. Our planning has gone in 3 directions all at the same time. A full normal festival, that isn't going to happen. I don't believe 100%. If we can, we certainly will. A hybrid festival containing certain elements online and others which will be live, and content to be agreed. And then a purely virtual festival, which I don't think will happen either. So there will be a combination as far as we're concerned, and the viability of certain venues has been looked at very carefully. And we think we can do what we need to do with using things like houses. So what would have been one concert with 1,000 people in it will now be 2 concerts with 500. That works for us. There are other ways of we can deal more easily by taking sides off venues, tented venues, which gives the better flow of air. So that part of it. But of course, whatever we do there still has to be a demand from the customers for it. And that, having talked about all the other uncertainties, that's the one which we are going to have to address ourselves more to, through basically asking our customers over the next month or so.
Cheers, John, and cheers, Ollie, for your question. See if we have any more questions. Councillor Arnott.
Sorry, Chair, I promised that would be enough from me.
Please don't apologise.
Okay, well, so just obviously thank you to everybody. Thank you to John. That was really fascinating. So we're aware I live in Colleton, which is, almost Dorset, so way over to the east, and our local accommodation businesses, B&Bs and others, are packed during the Sidmouth Folk Festival, and a large number of people are going to the Sidmouth Folk Festival. So I only mention that because it's an absolute embodiment of this phenomenon where culture and art and tourism intersect, which I think is the argument that Ruud is putting as well, which I really welcome. I think this is a really important thing. We're aware of that happening with some other strange phenomenon. We have the Grizzly Run that many of you may not know about, which is a horrific cross-country running event between Budley, between Seaton and Branscombe. So I don't know, it would kill me if I tried it. Thousands of people come for that. Again, that fills up all the accommodation. But again, we're affected even this far over by the Budley Literary Festival as well. People have to stay here because there is complete occupancy nearer. So the other thing, it hardly needs to be said, is that the Jazz Festival is an education. And I say that as somebody who, and forgive me, John, I just detested jazz as a young former, status quo fan, come punk rocker, I just thought, what are these old men doing with their beards and their awful atonal playing, and why can't they hold a tune? And so I started going 20 years ago, and it has been an education from across the world in both in folk and elements of jazz, but also the pageantry of the stuff out on the streets as well. It's been such a celebration of life. And I know that there are elements of that getting over into Exmouth as well now, aren't there, with kind of outdoor music and so forth. So, just to say thank you for all the presentations today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnott. You can say whatever you want in this forum. You see what I did there? Okay. Anyway, right. I think that's it for questions there. Yeah, thank you very, very much to all of the people who have contributed to that. I propose now taking a very, very short 5-minute comfort break. Please come back, hang around for the agenda item 7, which Ruth will be presenting. It's really, really important, and it kind of frames the future of the forum and how it's going to be developed and how we'd like to move forward. So if we say, if we can be back by 20 past, is that okay with everyone? Cool. See you in a minute.
Yep. Thanks, Jake.
Good call, Joe.
I need coffee.
Same.
Afraid I'm going to have to
Hi, everyone. I have coffee. All is good.
Nothing stronger, Chair.
Say that again.
Nothing stronger than coffee to keep you going.
Oh, definitely not. No, that would do the opposite. Is it past the yard arm yet?
I think in our current lockdown, I think everyone's changed their habits, haven't they? Thursdays and Friday, Wednesdays and or whatever. I think everything's moved,
I wake up, half a pint of gin, just to perk me up.
I'm sure this is recording live on YouTube. That's a disclaimer.
Okay, fine. It's fine. It's humour. It's not real.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Looks like we're getting there, I think. Most people seem to be back.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Are we back? Can I confirm that the live stream is running again?
Yes, Chair, it is. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, they've just watched 30 seconds of me sitting here staring into space, so that's great. Okay, so we move on to agenda item 7, which is the East Devon Arts and Culture Forum and Cultural Strategy. Yes, I'd like to pass over to Ruth Gooding, the Thelma Hubert Gallery Curator, and she has another job title as well, which she will no doubt refer to. And yeah, just thank her for all the work that I know that's gone into this presentation and her plans for the future. So Ruth.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm going to share my screen. Is that working? Success.
Yep, that's good.
Fabulous. I hope everyone recognises that first slide, and they've been down to Exmouth. I thought it was appropriate to have the "to be continued" as the slogan to start the forum conversation, which is very much how Charlie, myself, the team, and Joe and everyone involved think about what we're trying to do, and the many conversations we've had during lockdown, which is the brilliant benefit of Zoom, that we can now really have those late night conversations and think together about what we need and what could be the future of arts and culture in East Devon. So when I say arts and culture have a huge role to play in responding to and confronting the societal changes we face today and in the future, inequality of wealth and of opportunity, social isolation, mental well-being, the climate emergency, and right now the COVID pandemic, for all of us, we know that is at the forefront of our minds. So before I go into talk about the forum, I just thought I'd sketch out, and it does really look back to the presentations that we've had today and just sort of summarise the wider context within which the forum, as I said, is like the phoenix coming out of. So arts and culture are vital in helping us find a positive way forward and realise a better future for our communities, supporting health and well-being, the environment and economic recovery. So when we start to think about it in terms of cultural tourism, it can play a crucial role in today's economy. In 2018, cultural tourism represented 37% of the total tourism sector, with an annual growth of approximately 15%. With COVID, it fell across the world by 80%. We know that there is now an opportunity to build a resilient tourist economy, promoting digital transition and rethinking a more sustainable tourism system. And I think we're all in agreement that East Devon has a high cultural, social and environmental potential. The value of the arts, as we've already discussed is very high, but very difficult to quantify. The arts and culture industry has grown by 390 million in a year and now contributes 10.8 billion a year to the UK economy. The sector contributes 2.8 billion a year to the Treasury via taxation and generates a further 23 billion a year and 363 and 700 jobs. Within the value of the arts, there are, we know, lots of conversations going on, trying to spearhead that conversation with government. And I recommend that you look to #ArtIsEssential and Together We Will, which is run by CBAN and Visual Arts Southwest, which is pulling together a lot more detailed analysis. So the culture plan that this is coming out of as well. So the forum sits within East Devon District Council's wider culture plan, which is at the heart of the council's vision to maintain, enhance and enjoy an outstanding place for everyone in East Devon. We want the Culture Plan 2020 to 2027 to acknowledge and reflect the work of local arts and culture services and further embed the role of the arts in the cultural, social, educational, environmental and economic life of the district. In doing so, the cultural plan will align to Arts Council England's Let's Create strategy, which John referenced earlier on. I just thought I'd sketch out the Arts Council's 2020 to 2030 strategy, because I think it really does demonstrate how our forward thrust echoes a wider national trend in how the art is being perceived and how its value is being discussed. So the Arts Council say that by 2030, we want England to be a country in which the creativity of each of us is valued and given the chance to flourish, and where every one of us has access to a remarkable range of high quality cultural experiences. One, creative people. Everyone can develop and express creativity through their life. Cultural communities, villages, towns and cities thrive through a collaborative approach to culture. 3, a creative and cultural country. England's cultural sector is innovative, collaborative and international. So the forum, this is a mission statement that we have proposed, but it's everything that we're discussing today is something that we would like your feedback, and there's an opportunity to shape. But at the moment, we're conceiving it as a public forum for arts and cultural services such as theatres, museums and galleries, programming festivals, delivering workshops and participatory music events, commissioning public art, working with local social wellbeing, inclusion and economic development agendas, and supporting local arts and cultural organisations and creative businesses. These are the core aims that we perceive that the forum can help with: embed the role of the arts in the cultural, social, educational, environmental and economic life of the district by providing a supportive network. And I think we've seen today how just through this Zoom, there's so much potential to adapt and flourish and collaborate together. Support advocacy work for local arts and cultural services and identify areas for collaboration. Share news, best practice, plans and ambitions, aid in communications between art practitioners, arts organisations, non-art organisations, local government, regional and national bodies. So we've seen today, we've heard from education, theatre, festivals, environmental, and I think from our experience at THG, it is together that we find strength and that we can flourish. We'd like to develop and promote local authority arts and culture-led economic growth initiatives and support an increased engagement in the cultural activity in the district, developing a healthy social and cultural ecology which enriches communities and visitors. So what we've touched on today actually is how other cities, districts, areas have formed networks to support their creative communities, to share that best practice, to share funding and to collaborate to strengthen that offer. So on the right hand side there, you'll just see some logos of networks that exist already. The Arts and Culture Forum, for example, in Exeter, and Visual Arts Southwest. And we've got the fun task of Arts in East Devon to have its own identity. And through discussions with various creative practitioners and the council and colleagues, we're looking at it's come in a way very naturally, but ACE, Arts Culture in East Devon. And so the intention is over the next month or two that we'll be launching an umbrella brand that we think can strengthen the cultural offer of the district and pull us together, forming one identifiable offer and tone for the district. We're looking now at how that actually works, how that can actually operate realistically. So we think that there'll be two levels to the membership to the forum that will speak up and speak down, so that will be a constant flow of information. As we all know, Zooms can be so helpful in pulling us together across the country and across different areas and within which we work. So we're proposing hosting 3 network members Zooms a year, 2 executive membership meetings a year, and then most importantly, the newsletter. At the moment, the Thelma Hulbert Gallery will be holding a lot of the infrastructure, and we hope to host a microsite and support dissemination of information through our social media network. As I said, this is early days for us. There's obviously such an opportunity and so much energy, but we know that we need to consult. And so after this meeting, we'll be sharing a survey as widely distributed as it can be, to get a sense of how we really can support the cultural sector in East Devon, what the forum can be used for and why, how we can communicate with you. And the hope then is in April this year, we'll be launching ACE, and we'll be inviting different guest speakers to share their insights from their organisations and move forward as one whole cultural creative offer in East Devon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And again, thanks for all the hard work you've put into that. So do we have any questions for Ruth? Councillor de Saram.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. Yes, Ruth, I think that's a very good presentation. Today, we've seen many examples of our links to the arts and culture, and you've mentioned a newsletter, you've talked of a survey, and I think that with the mission statement you created, I think it's very much important to have practical outcomes which are relevant. For example, in section 6 that we've just discussed, we could ask Anne-Marie, Joe, and people like this, and Tana, and everyone who's come today, how did you benefit from it? I think as part of the survey, and they could share their views. And I know that Exmouth Town Team, for example, is thinking of creating some form of town video to showcase the town. So I think we need to, as a group, we need to use social media to show what this group has done, and to use the mission statement linked to practical outcomes, which is really important. And I think that we should encourage as many towns and parishes as possible in their meetings to share this. And if necessary, Joe could do a roadshow type presentation to various towns and parishes who haven't had this on board. And I think that's something we need to do, because everyone likes surveys, but it's who will actually participate in the survey. And I think we need to get as wider people as possible on board. And that's something that I'd welcome Joe will be doing, so that the arts and culture really does take off in Exmouth and in Exmouth, of course, and other towns surrounding Exmouth. So thank you, Chair. That's really all I had to say.
Thank you, Bruce. You're now my booking agent. Excellent. No, I think that's a really, really good idea. And I think getting town and parish councils involved is vital. And I'm happy to help in any way that's possible. Charlie.
Thanks, Chair. Just to reinforce what Ruth said, this is a fantastic opportunity to provide a platform for a much wider network. I think that's the sort of key message behind this. I think the post-COVID recovery has shown us how important it is that we reach out, and we are a lot more inclusive in the way we look at our agenda, how we can help support across I keep referring to the cultural family. That's really, really important. But also we've heard how powerful cultural regeneration, cultural tourism can be as well. And I think reflecting the discussions around East Devon District Council's ambitions in this area. It's important that the forum can help to reinforce that, to help shape some of that as well. And I think, you know, there's a great opportunity here for us to sort of reset and, you know, to place our sort of cultural offer, our cultural regeneration, our cultural program at the heart of lots of really positive things going forward. So there's a lot of ambition here, but I can speak for Ruth and the gallery team and myself, as well as, you know, the Countryside team, Graham, theatre manager. You know, we're up for the challenge. You know, we're up for, you know, making sure that we'll, you know, give it the, you know, the best shot that we can as we come out of the pandemic.
Cheers, Charlie. I think what some of the discussions that we've had as well is in the lead up to this is making this as inclusive as we can. So we have, there are various levels of art and culture, various things which could be described as such. So everything from some of the higher art exhibitions that we've had at the gallery, all the way across to some of the things that the pavilion, for example, puts on with its tribute bands. To some people, that's art, and we need to embrace everything, you know, everything within that. And I think this gives East Devon a really good opportunity to do that. And I think Bruce's point, seriously, about social media and playing on that, making everything I think one of the things we spoke about as well was making everything available in one place. So it's a forum for it's, you know, through its social media offering, it can this can offer a place where you go to see what's happening in East Devon. And I think in terms of that, it can be really, really useful. So yeah, again, thank you very, very much to everybody that's worked towards that. And you can certainly count on my support, and I would hope you could count on everybody's support within the upstanding members of the council. Okay, do we have any more questions? You've stunned the audience into silence with your brilliance, Ruth. Okay then. Well, so we now move to agenda item 8, which is to set the date of the next meeting, and I can reveal the date of the next forum will be Wednesday, the 20th of October, 2021 at 10 a.m. Though, of course, that you will hear a lot more from all of us, I'm sure, and from Charlie and Ruth in the meantime. And I encourage you all to engage in a way that that helps to move this forward. So that brings our meeting to an end. I'd like to thank everybody genuinely for attending, including any members of the public watching online, including, I must mention, Wendy at the Beehive. Hello. I said I'd give you a shout out. It's like a radio show now, isn't it? Hi, Wendy. However, can I just remind all those present that the sporting officer will confirm when the meeting is no longer being recorded or going live, and until then, your comments will be live to the public.
Thank you, Chair. As always.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye now.